Jamie Moran. We have a lot to get into. And, look, we don't like being negative here, folks. But the truth of the matter is that we have to get into what seems to be a spiraling out of control Bungie. And I don't even know where to start. Like, honestly, I'm never at a loss for words, but I kind of feel so overwhelmed with the amount of bad news that is coming out of this studio in the last, 7 to 10 days that it's almost difficult to try and figure it out and make it into a conversation that we have. But what I'm going to do, Jamie Moran, as we wait for our infinite number to get here, I'm going to read some of these headlines. And of course, as a host of your own show, we'll let you go wherever you want to go. You're a paraprofessional. So one of the most damning reports comes the way of Paul Tassi. Now, Paul Tassi writes for Forbes.com. And basically, his last article, which I have in front of me, was posted on May 19th, 2025. He says in the title, "It's just over for Marathon." Now, again, I'm just reading the title. I'm going to provide the link in the show notes. But again, because there's literally so much information, I do want to read some of the other headlines that have taken the breadth of gaming across the board. So this comes the way of Marathon Bulletin on Twitter. And it goes on to tell a story about an ex-Bungie developer that says Marathon leadership was so extremely toxic and humiliating, it was hard to work with. And it goes on to say the Bungie leadership needs to be gutted completely. Now that story came out, or that interview came out at the GamePost.com. Again, I'm going to supply all of these links in the show notes once the show is done, if you'd like to read them for yourself. But that's not where it ends, folks. According to, again, Marathon Bulletin on Twitter, and this is where Sony, PlayStation, and Bungie are in a pickle. In a new report, again, from Marathon Bulletin on Twitter, Marathon, apparently, Jamie, needs to break into the top 5 NPD sales of the year to be considered a success, it's claimed. Well, good luck for that. But again, folks, as you would imagine, the bad news continues. Now, as it was reported about last week, Bungie was accused of stealing artwork. Now, this is not the first time they've had this accusation made against them, but, well, needless to say, it happened for the 4th time. And that's not where this story ends, but I'm going to talk about it because, Jamie, stealing artwork is gross. They are a company. They're a $1 million company. They were bought and purchased for $3.6 billion. By Sony, added to the PlayStation studios with the thought and the theory that their professionalism and knowledge on how to make gas games work would assist Sony in their future gas game endeavors. Well, that has failed. But this stealing of the artwork is incredible. Well, if you thought that the one artist that came out and posted about his artwork being used in their level design, literally one-to-one. Well, we have a report here from IGN.com that was posted on May 19th, and I have that in front of me. This was tweeted on their official Twitter account with a link to the story, and it says, another independent artist has accused Bungie of, quote-unquote, lifting, which of course is another word for stealing, their artwork in Marathon, and now the gaming community around the developer is wondering what is next. So I'm going to go right back, of course, to Jamie Moran. Now, Jamie, I think I've caught up to date. Now, this is where I believe the nail is in the coffin of Bungie's Marathon. So Okami 13 _, which is one of my favorite people on the socials, he works tirelessly on Twitter to update everyone with gaming news. And he made a post this morning that is, again, folks, this is the nail in the coffin. So Marathon had its alpha, and we've heard from a lot of people that played it, including Paul Tassi, that said this game needs to be delayed. And that was a story that he wrote, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And one of the things that came out right after the alpha and all the bad press and all of the bad, conversation behind Bungie's premium title comes, well, Arc Raiders shows up. And Arc Raiders took the gaming world by storm, and there was been a lot of buzz on it. Now, Arc Raiders is a three person extraction shooter. Again, not so much for Mr. BoomStick XL, but he posted this, and this is where you know this is the nail in the coffin, Jamie. Arc Raiders has entered the top 10 most wishlist games on all of Steam after the recent Marathon controversy. It's a third player extraction shooter from Embark Studios, creators of the Finals, releasing later this year for PlayStation 5, Series X and S, and PC. So that to me is damning for this game. But again, it's just a stacked deck of bad news for Bungie. You have mismanagement that's been going on for quite some time. You have developers coming out of the woodworks to tell you how bad the management currently is, and even some of the management that has been sent packing, which is unbelievable. You have Marathon that has been in development for many, many years. It has come across lots of controversy. You have art theft. And again, this is now multiple artists that are saying, yes, our stuff was stolen. It's in the game. It's in the level. It's in the design of the characters. And now you have this. Jamie, I don't know what is going to happen to this studio, but I can tell you right now, if this continues, there will no longer be a Bungie. Let's get your thoughts, man.
It's a tough situation to watch. Like, you know how you're not meant to look at a train crash?
Yes.
But you look anyway, and
Yep.
you just can't look away from it. And, sometimes you might see this train crash happening, but you just can't look away. And it feels like it's in slow motion. This is what's happening with Bungie. We are watching them literally crash live in slow motion. And it's awful. Like, Bungie isn't the Bungie we used to love, I'll like Halo Reach, in my opinion, was peak Bungie, right? There was millions of people playing that beta. So many people are hyped. They were listening. Bungie were listening to feedback. How amazing is that? And now, like, they've came this far, and like Destiny's in a weird state because they clearly don't want to make Destiny 3, even though that's the best action they can do. There's a different company making the Destiny spin-off, which arguably looks more interesting than Destiny 2. And, when extraction shooters are about to kick off on console, bloody finally, and Marathon was one of the two shooters that were going to do it. They've screwed themselves over. This isn't the first time Bungie has had issues with plagiarism. I don't know if you know this, Boom, but like, and some people in chat might not know this, but like they were taken to court for story elements from Destiny 2 expansions being ripped off from a different writer.
I did not know about that.
Oh no, it gets juicier. So they were taken to court, and since they sunset their own content, they couldn't show their own content in court. So they were suggesting to the judge YouTube videos of law videos made by YouTubers, and they were like, "No, we're not gonna allow you to show these videos." That they've had issues for years with this stuff. They have people stealing art all the time, and I saw people try and defend it. Oh, it's only art. It's like this is people's livelihoods, right? This person could have been paid upfront years ago, and then being contracted to work on this game. They could have made a living from working on Marathon, but they didn't. They stole art, and then they say it's an older developer that left. This nameless developer. I love
when they say that. Yes.
Yeah, I highly doubt that the bloody art director that was sitting on that chair during that live stream, which was so cringe. It was awful to watch.
It was awful. I feel bad, worse for the artist, but man, that was brutal to watch.
It was hard to watch, but like I feel it hard to believe that the art director knew nothing about it. there's hundreds, if not thousands, of individual art elements in the game when it comes to vinyls and logos and stuff. And you're telling me no one did a passover, nobody did a bloody, reverse Google search, image search, nothing like that. I find that very hard to believe. It's
All
lies. And it's lazy development, and I don't like calling developers lazy. They put a lot of hard work, they put their years, blood, sweat, and tears into these games, but how many times can you steal art, get away with it, and just say, "Oops, it was a mistake. It was an older employee that left." Right? It keeps happening over and over and over again. Bungie they have systemic issues to the core. They need to gut the higher ups, And the worst thing is that, well, not even the worst thing, but one of the worst things is that when if you coming out into the console market with an extraction shooter, you have to let people know, hey, what that, because they had to explain what an extraction shooter is to the console user base, right? Escape from Tarkov rocks it all on PC, right? Everyone on PC knows what the hell Escape from Tarkov is. Companies want to have Escape from Tarkov like experience on console because it would be absolutely massive. And Marathon was one of the 2 games that were going to do it. And like me, I talk about Tarkov all the time. I haven't bloody played the thing. I want the game on console, and it'll never come to console. So I want something similar. And Marathon, they're skipping simple things that an extraction shooter would have. And even in their chat, when the people were doing the Q&A, they were asked, hey, we want these things in an extraction shooter. Can you put them in? And, proximity chat is an important thing for an extraction shooter. And the developers were like, we'll think about it. We just want to implement things in our own Bungie way. And then they were asked, will you put solo-only queue in? Because if you want to play a solo in Marathon, you're going up against other teams, not other single players, right? And then they gave away the same BS answer. They're not listening to feedback. They're stealing art on a consistent basis. Clearly, Bungie has been a mess for years, and this goes back all the way back to Destiny 1, right? All the issues with the composer, the Halo composer, I forgot his name, and
it's right on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, they didn't want he wound up winning in court. He wound up beating them in court.
Yeah, and
something O'Donnell.
They've had all these issues for years, and they couldn't get content out on time with Destiny 1 because the engine was basically running to its like max core with the amount of content that they could have. It's ridiculous, and you have Arc Raiders. That's it had an alpha around about the same time as Marathon, and it's a stark difference, right? People were playing it, loving it, talking about their experiences, and like this told people like this is going to be the extraction shooter on console, the extraction console game to play, and like nobody really has any issues with Arc Raiders. But you know what? There's people that played in the tech test last year for Arc Raiders. It was a completely different game, right? But you know what the developers did? They listened to feedback. They completely changed everything, and now people bloody love the game. And with Marathon, like Bungie, they were the top dogs of the industry at one point, to the point where now they are essentially up their own asses, and they won't listen to feedback. They think they can do no wrong. Nobody can touch them. And, whatever they dish out, they think we're going to pay for it. And, like, in a time where people, like I was saying in the pre-show, like, I think that the max ceiling has been hit when it comes to Battle Royale games. I don't think any other big companies can come out with a brand new AAA, 100-player Battle Royale. I don't think that'll happen ever again. But extraction shooters, that's something where games can be big. But, like, Arc Raiders comes out, and, it's by a relatively new developer. It's a bunch of ex-Battlefield developers where they came out with the finals and knocked it out of the park with that game. You have Bungie that they know to make Halo, excellent games. Destiny, I may have my negative things to say about Destiny, but the thing you can say about Destiny 1 and 2, the gunplay is superb.
I'd say peak. I think their gunplay is unmatchable. Now, I haven't played it in years, so I don't know if it's changed, but from what I remember, it was peak.
Yeah, incredible gunplay. And like, if they could put that sort of gameplay in an extraction shooter, it'd be potentially one of the best games of the year. But like, the story gets worse and worse. And then we hear yesterday that allegedly they have to be in the top 5 NPD for the whole year to be
Crazy.
a success. And the crazy thing about that is we live in a year where we have an Elder Scrolls game out.
Yep.
Expedition 33, the combat system is new to a lot of people, but guess what? Millions of people are loving it. Doom the Dark Ages, even though people are saying it's off to a rocky start on PC, that's going to sell well for the rest of the year. You have Monster Hunter Wilds, huge game. You have Crimson Desert coming later this year. That's going to be absolutely massive. You have Borderlands 4. Despite my problems with Randy Pitchford and what he said today about video game prices, it's probably going to sell bloody well. Mafia, that's going to sell well.
I just pre-ordered it yesterday. I got the $60 edition. I bought, I always get the deluxe edition, but I bought it yesterday. Yep.
Yeah, and that game looks fantastic. It's arguably one of the best years for gaming in years. And you tell me that for this game to be a success, it has to be one of the 5 best-selling games in the US. There's not a snowball's chance in hell of this game doing that well. And the thing is, as you know, Boom, I've been one of the people that's been looking forward to Marathon, right? I've been saying I need an extraction game and it's a sci-fi game. That's a win-win scenario for me. But everything I've seen so far is extremely disappointing. I've been one of the few people online that said, hey, I do actually like the art style. Well, apparently they didn't even make the bloody art style because they stole it all. And the list goes on and on for this game. It's just a complete mess. And I don't think Bungie is what they used to be. I think a year from now, they aren't going to be here at all in any capacity. I think they will be absorbed into Sony. And the team, the third-party studio that's making Destiny Rising for mobile, I think that will be put on console. And that will be the Destiny game going forward. Because what's going on at the minute is an absolute joke. And it's a shame because like Halo Reach was peak Bungie and they're a shell of themselves. It's sad really because Halo Reach was brilliantly received online. Millions, like there was a counter on the top of the screen for Halo Reach multiplayer where it said like I think it was like 2 million people playing concurrently on a 360 on one console.
Unbelievable.
And like crazy. And like people might have their issues with Halo now, but like Bungie knew what the hell they were doing. Customization options. No one did it like Bungie, right? And now it's just a joke. Like, and they try to weasel themselves out of the whole like art thievery thing. It blows my mind because how do you have a studio that consists of hundreds of people? You have an art director that's meant to go over every single piece of art, and they say that they didn't know anything about it. It smells like BS basically.
Yeah,
and it's annoying because look, I was looking forward towards Marathon. I know, like I have friends that were looking forward to Marathon. They have no interest in it anymore, right? I have PlayStation friends that might be a shocker to people, but I have PlayStation friends. They are interested in art creators now because not just because of the whole art thing, but like the proximity chat thing, the solo only queue, stuff like that. It's a mess. And the thing is, everything I've just said with the game itself, when it comes to solo only queue and things they can fix, they can do that. They can patch it. But like, and then we hear that like they move in the open beta into a roadmap phase. We don't even know if the game's going to come out in September now because of everything that's been happening. Like, if I was Bungie, they have two ways to go about it. They have to push the game out a year, right? Push the game out a year, put in every bloody feature people want, put in a PvE only mode where people can play solo, where they can get introduced to extraction shooters, or they should can it. Because if they release this game in September in the state it's in, I can't see it doing that well in any capacity.
This could be a Concord Part 2, man. I mean, again, I'm not trying to like throw logs on the fire here to burn brighter. It's what it is. Concord came out. It lasted 7 days, cost $400 million over 7 years, and was canceled. The studio was closed. If this game comes out the way it is, and you have multiple news sources talking about it, specifically Paul Tassi. Now, I don't always agree with Paul, but he did write up 2 stories on this, and this is his follow-up. And if it comes out as crappy as it sounds, their studio is finished. That is it. And you got to remember, what makes all of this, what makes this whole thing just stink to high heaven is the fact that you just had Jade Raymond leave her studio that she created and there's still no update to what's happening with Fair Games. That is probably a game that is getting canceled. Could you imagine having Concord, Marathon, and a canceled Fair Games in the same freaking year? Like, what the hell is going on at PlayStation? I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. And if that artist didn't pick up on the art, let's say, what if this person decided to buy this video game, and then like months down the road, like she was playing the game, and all of a sudden realized, oh wait, she walked past a wall where she designed half the bloody art, right? It's a complete mess. It really is. And Sony, they having issues with their live service games. Clearly, Factions 2 was cancelled because Bungie didn't think they could make money from it or whatever. The finals, we don't really know what the finals is, so I can't really comment on it. We think it was going to be a PvP heist game. Everyone thought it was Watch Dogs Legion when they first showed it off because of the hipsters and stuff. But it's a mess. It really is. Like I said, they have two options: delay it a year, revamp it, put PvE in, and every feature that people want. And they're going to have to go over every single piece of individual art, right? That's thousands of art assets, from single logos to complete posters on walls and stuff. It's crazy. Or they have to cancel it, because if that game comes out in September, realistically, what's that situation going to be like? I can't see them fixing the whole thing before September. I can't see that people like what are they going to change in the next few months that's going to make people go, wow, this is the extraction shooter that's getting me to play extraction shooters on a console. This is the extraction. Screw Arc Raiders. I'm playing Art Raiders, right? Nobody's going to do that. Nobody, unless they work at Bungie. But even then, that's a stretch because the game looks terrible.
Yeah, no, I agree. Infinite Umbra. I don't know, because I was on another screen when you came in here, but there's a lot to get into with this Bungie story, and it's not good. There really is not one piece of, I guess, evidence that you could use in Bungie's favor. I think Jamie put it the best. The art director, his job or her job is to make sure that the work that's getting done is getting done right. And that starts at the work that's actually being used. Is this original artwork that their artists at Bungie created? Well, the answer is no, it's not. A lot of it was stolen. We have multiple reports that have Bungie getting, basically called out for it. This happened originally last week with one of the artists. It happened again this week where IGN reported on it. You have a quote coming out regarding sales. The game is nowhere close to being released. It's probably going to be delayed, but according to this new report, Infinite Umbra, if it's not the top 5 best-selling games of the year, it's going to be considered a failure for Bungie. And that, of course, would be a failure for PlayStation and then a failure for Sony Interactive Entertainment. But it's not even, again, if that's just where it stops, maybe if you are a half glass filled kind of a gal or guy, you might be able to find a rainbow in there somewhere. Well, no, there is not, because now you're getting people former. And again, maybe they're being pointed. Maybe they're being vengeful. I don't know. But we're getting reports that former Bungie employees who worked on Marathon are claiming that it not only is there mismanagement at Bungie, and that the entire staff that runs the company needs to be gutted, but there was toxic-like behavior that went on for the entire development of this game. I don't know where you want to attack this from, but all I see is bad news for Bungie, for PlayStation, and for Sony Interactive Entertainment. And again, I know people are going to be like, well, wait a second, Boom. They sold a lot of consoles. Folks, I'm here to tell you, stop talking about console sales. Because yes, console sales are important, but that is not the whole business, which is why they're switching to MAUs. And you heard that in their last financials. But let's keep it laser focused on the ridiculousness known as Bungie.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of just flow from the dome, I suppose. Yeah, Bungie, they're a storied franchise, storied developer, I should say. Obviously, the name. I suppose they're more Bungie in name only
Yeah,
nowadays.
yeah, because all of their original staff seems to be gone.
Yeah, so I can't quite call them Bungie, the Halo Bungie. But there's been a lot of problems with them reported over the years in general. So this, you know, new tweet or mention from one of the former staff doesn't actually surprise me about how they need to be gutted and things like that. We know when the marathon was revealed in 2023, in August of last year, they had a restructuring, if you guys remember,
I
mind you.
do. Yes.
And that resulted in the layoff of like 17% of their workforce.
Yep.
So they've already lost a significant amount of people even beyond that. So that hurt with development of marathon and things like that. And I wonder if that went into them trying to, the artist maybe trying to cut corners and say, well, hey, let's just grab this and use this. You know what I mean? This is the thing for me. Sony can't afford another loss like this. Microsoft would even be hard pressed to take a loss of Concord at whatever hundreds of millions it is, because I guess that's still in debate. Oh, it wasn't 400, it was this, it was hundreds of millions. We know that much at the very least.
Right.
That's fair to say. Marathon had been worked on for over 4 years with 300 plus developers.
Yes. Just
hundreds
imagine
of millions.
Yes.
Hundreds of millions. Likely going down the drain now. And that's the thing that I would, if I'm a Bungie employee, I will be worried about. As Jamie was mentioning, and you guys mentioned, the guys were being sacrificed on that live stream they did.
Oh, dude,
The audience was just tearing them apart, like mocking them and talking about them plagiarizing and things like that. And hell, with all due credit for it, because they've earned that, right? You look at this, and I look at it as like it's 5 different incidents that we can call back to. 2021, they took it from a fan, the fan art they used in Destiny 2 Witch Queen trailer. They, contacted them and apologized to the artist, credit them after the public backlash. So, okay, they made amends. All right, hey, fool me once, right? 2023, Destiny 2 Lightfall cutscene. An artist named Julian Felona had their art taken and used in a cutscene from the Witness Origins without permission. Now they say that was mistakenly used by an external vendor. Okay, cool. Bungie was contacted about that, and Bungie said that they admitted the error. They contacted Felona and they would compensate the person and credit them. A year later, they still hadn't done it. As of September of 24, they not only were not compensated for payment, I don't believe they were properly given their credit either. 2024, Destiny 2, Ace of Spades, Nerf gun, and exotic ornaments, rather. Artist Tofu Rabbit, independent artist. They used his art for Destiny 2 Nerf gun replica and in-game Ace of Spades exotic ornament without permission. Now they at least compensated and credit that person after it was publicized. 2024 again, second artist for Destiny 2 Nerf gun.
It's just unbelievable, bro. Unbelievable.
Yeah, this person was promised compensation, but the artist reportedly got no follow through, similar to the 2023 case above that I mentioned with Felona. And now 2025 here with this marathon alpha art theft from Fern Hook. Now, so it's a crazy what's the word I want to use here? It's a crazy pattern, right? And to me, that would seem very, very purposeful. I don't believe in too many coincidences like that. Shame on me, right? You fool me once, shame on me. Fool me 5 times. You right? Or fool me once, shame on you, should I say? Fool me 5 times, shame on me.
Yeah.
Bungie is out there and still an art. The artist and whoever is running whatever, they're still in it. And I get it. And I feel bad for those who are likely, really doing their work, and this is affecting them too. But at a point, I would feel like somebody in leadership would have to step up and be like, yo, let's tighten this ship because all these different incidents, it just makes the studio look poor and bankrupt. All right. And I think we're all inspired by something. I'm an artist myself. I haven't drawn in a long while though, but we're all inspired by something. It's elements of whatever in art, no matter what you do. Nobody is just wholly original and then take inspiration from something. But to take the whole thing of what somebody else used, yeah, it's a different beast, And I just think that it's a shame that they have marred themselves this way. To me, I would think, especially with the, I think with the reveal of Marathon, it was kind of, I think it landed with a thud. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
None of us were like wowed by it. Jamie, I know you say you may have been tried to maybe thinking about getting it. I had no such excitement. Like when I saw it, I was like, it didn't really appeal to me. I didn't think the art style was completely terrible, but it didn't look that good to me either. And I look at it and I would say it's a step up from Concord's character art and such and designs, I would say, but it still didn't wow me. And it just looked, somebody, as Danny said, he said it looked like pre-alpha footage that didn't fully load the assets in.
Man, he's brutal.
Yeah, Danny is very brutal. And I couldn't help but agree after I looked at it more. It just looks, I don't know,
baked.
Kind of,
it's what it looks like.
Yeah, it just looks a little simple, right? A little half-assed, if you will. But I guess that's art can be that way too. It just didn't appeal to me. Mind you, I'm also not big on simply just doing online only type shooters myself personally. So doing something where it's just purely extraction is going to have a crazy hook to get me. And then you look at other games in the genre, or at least, in the genre that's out there, in games that's coming, like Arc Raiders, like you all guys mentioned. I was actually excited for Arc Raiders years ago when they first announced it. And even more now, seeing the reaction people have had with it, seeing the gameplay. It looks to be a fun game.
It looks actually very polished. Like,
it looks very
really
polished.
good. Not
beautiful
for me,
visuals
but
too.
Yeah.
Am I wrong in thinking, or is that Unreal they use for that?
I don't know, but if it did, there's your calling card, sir.
They're calling me. I'm just saying it looks unrealish, but and I think Arc Raiders just has a better, different, a more unique style to it. It's visually pleasing. I'm hearing the gameplay is really solid. I don't know. I think you look in the face of that, you look at other games, the Tarkovs that like people will mention or whatever, and you're already in it's a niche market already doing the extraction shooter. You can't have these types of things happen and then I think still be successful. I just think they have a uphill battle, on their hands right here. So Big Mad Mo, I'm trying not to have any slandered. I don't want to have you your comments deleted. We're talking about Unreal Stutter. I saw that. Avoid Rat. That's your first and final warning too.
No Unreal Engine 5 slander, please.
It's messed up because I can't not react when I see it. It's like I'm trying to stop myself, but they know what they're doing. Anyway, that said, I feel like I feel like they got an uphill battle to climb here with this game already, and this right here just hindered it that much more. I'm pretty sure most are like probably going to, protest it in general and not buy it and support it, and that leads to Sony likely disbanding Bungie and sending these devs off to other teams and things like that. That's the unfortunate part. That part I don't like. I don't like when people have to lose their jobs, right?
Listen, I'm sorry. Listen, here's the thing. I cannot sign off or sanction seeing someone lose their job unless they stole or anything like that. You set yourself up. I can't feel bad for you. But to see someone lose their job that was legitimately doing their job, and thanks to poor leadership, things went awry, and now they lost a job because of it. That definitely stinks. But why this story is even worse, gentlemen? And again, this is not piling on, folks. This is just, let's read the room. Let's be fair about our conversation, and let's just talk about it. This is coming off of a story that happened last week where Jade Raymond has been sent packing or she left on her own, but the studio that she created is no longer under her control. The game that she had her studio bought for, because you got to remember, this is on Sony. Sony, I said this last week and I will repeat it again. I know that she gets a lot of slack because she hasn't produced a game in X amount of years. Okay, fine. She hasn't had a winning, produced game. I'm not even going to argue with that. But she's a veteran of the industry, and she created the studio, and she made a game, which I thought was going to be single player because that's her forte, and it wasn't. And what it looked like is basically a Payday ripoff, and we haven't heard about it in years. And then last week, she either gets sent packing or she leaves herself, and the studio is up in the air, and so is Fair Games. And again, I said this in the opening to, when we brought Umbra in. Umbra, just imagine this for Sony Interactive Entertainment and PlayStation. You have a Concord, a Marathon, and a Fair Games in the same year. That has got to equate to $1 billion worth of loss. How do they?
Close, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, if one game was $400 million over the course of 7 years, how much millions were spent on Marathon? And I would imagine it's a lot because there's a report, like I talked about it before, they need to be in the top 5 sales of the year. Not at the time, not at the month, but for the entire 2025 campaign. If they're not in the top 5, it's considered a failure. What kind of pressure is that? And then, of course, Fair Games. Bro, is Fair Games even going to release? Probably not.
I don't know. And that's the thing. They better hope it does, because not only is that they have to account for the game development itself, but they purchased them. So
yes,
that's a lot of money spent right there. If we're talking about just development costs, it's close to $1 billion. But imagine all the studio pickups and such, and adding that cost from Bungie.
Well, Bungie was $3.6 billion by itself.
So that's billions right there lost right there. That's gotta hurt. Even if Microsoft, if that happened to them, it'd hurt. So
yeah, I
mean, Sony, who has less capital as far as that goes, that's gotta hurt. They don't have the rich baby daddy, I suppose, or the sugar daddy like Microsoft, like Xbox does with Microsoft. So how much does that hurt them? I think the craziest part about it is, like, most of us, including Sony's, our Hoove brothers, most of them were like upset with the whole live push too, the live service push. And I think, this shows why there's like this. It's a tough market to really get into properly, and like it just seems to be a crazy mishandling of it already. I just don't think it's a good look for Sony in general. I think they need to go back to the drawing board.